Right, defenders and where we are with defenders at the moment.
It's well straight now.
Listen, we've got a whole host of defenders that we've got to get through here. Radu Dragusin, Emerson Royale, Christian Romero, Pedro Porro, Ben Davies, Jed Spence, Destiny Udogie, Ashley Phillips, Joe Rodon, Sergio Reguilon, Mickey van der Ven. Right, let's go through, I think, what we all agreed to be keeping here without a discussion. You boys tell me if we're wrong. Just stop me in full flow if we're not keeping these guys. Pedro Porro, a much better for him season as a whole. He was much more suited to Postecoglou's game. He managed 11 goal involvements in 34 matches, and he played 3,272 minutes, more than any other outfield player across the campaign. Pedro Porro, we are keeping. Christian Romero, arguably, I think for many would say it's been his best, most consistent season at the football club. 34 appearances, 5 goals to his name. He became a real force in both ends of the pitch, you have to say. And I think for many, they were split towards the end of the campaign, whether it should have been him or Mickey van der Ven that were awarded the player of the season. Of course, we saw Mickey van der Ven get it from the fans, but there was many calls for Marrero. On Mickey van der Ven, look, he was one of, if not the biggest stars of the Premier League season. You can't help but wonder how good he would have been even more had he not had that 2.5 elapse of a hamstring injury they had to deal with. He was phenomenal across the campaign, and I think many would suggest he was better than all of us ever thought he would be. Mickey van der Ven, an absolute star. Radu Dragusin, look, he ended up only making 9 appearances for the club since coming in January, which, to be fair, look, I think ultimately the only game you can really maybe put a finger mark against him was the Fulham game, where it was the toughest match, you'd say, of his season. But I think, again, there's no concerns about him at the moment. And Destiny Udogie, he was shortlisted for the Premier League's Young Player of the Season award. A terrific life start at Spurs, where ultimately he flew out of the box. He, of course, had a couple of red cards. The ones that come to mind is that one, of course, against Chelsea. But overall, he did sign a new long-term contract at the football club that will see him tied for the long part of his future to come. I think where we are, guys, and tell me if I'm wrong, from the fact none of you guys have stopped me, I think we're all saying we're going to keep those guys. Those that have got question marks against them are Ben Davies, Emerson Royale, Joe Rodon, Sergio Reguilon, and Jed Spence. Ashley Phillips will come on to him as well. Guys, we're going to start with Ben Davies. Look, I know it's a running theme on here that I always give Ben Davies a 6 out of 10. And he's not given enough praise by me. I think, look, what I would say about Ben is that he's been a absolutely brilliant servant to the football club. Like him as a guy, I think he's a brilliant person to have around the camp. Reliable, steady, Eddie. Is he good enough for where Spurs want to go in the future? I don't personally think so. My concern is that I've been saying that for the last 2-3 seasons as a minimum. Let's go round to the boys and see where they're at. Ben Davies, Lee, a lot of defenders to get through here. Are we keeping, selling, or loaning this summer?
Well, we're not going to loan him. I think we need a left-sided centre-back backup, and we need a left-back backup. And I think you can do that with one person. I'm not saying that's Ben Davies, but it's just a coincidence that he plays both. Well, we don't play him. He kind of tries to play both of them. I think, look, in an ideal world, I'd like to, again, thank him for his service. Hopefully he goes and gets his coaching badges and he gets a coaching role back at Tottenham. He does love us, almost adopted one of our own. But I don't think he unfortunately for Ben, I don't think he's the right person to stay.
Let's discuss Emerson Royale very quickly, boys. Keeping, selling, loaning. Lee, start us off on the Emerson Royale train. Where are we?
Yeah, I think it's time for Emerson to move on. I don't think his career at Spurs has been that kind to him, and vice versa. I mean, I think, you had all the stories about him being burgled, having COVID when he first came over. Loads of fans on social media were absolutely battering him when he first came in the first 6-7 games. He was bought as a right back, had to retrain as a right wing back. And then he lost his dog, I think. He had a nightmare and he was spending millions of pounds or whatever it was training and trying to get up. So, look, from an attitude perspective, he's probably got all the core attributes that you would want in somebody's behaviour to try and get it right. And, you've got to respect that. But I think, since Ange Postecoglou's coming to the football club as well, it's quite clear that he can't play an inverted right back, either. The drop-off has been hard. What I would say about Emerson under Postecoglou is he's played left-back, right-back, inverted, number 10 and centre-back. Let's actually have it right. That's really tough to do, especially when you haven't ever really nailed down a place this is my position and this is what I am. He's like a utility player without the utilities. So I think it's time for him to move on. And look, I think a move to AC Milan would be brilliant. Let's not worry about the figures. Of course, they're going to be saying that. It's negotiation at the end of the day.
Let's see if we can go through these a bit more quicker. Joe Rodon, where are we? Patty, keeping, selling, loaning Joe Rodon this summer for you?
I'll be short and sweet with this one, Sal. I was gutted when Leeds didn't get promoted because I think if they would have got promoted, that would have been a simple, quick transaction. Now, obviously, he's going to be back on the selling block and we're going to have to see what happens. Love to see him in the Premier League at a lower tabled or position team. But no, he's not good enough to play for Spurs. Unfortunate, just a bad bit of recruitment. Sell.
Jay, short and sweet, keeping, selling or buying. Joe Rodon, what are we doing?
With Joe Rodon or Reguilon?
Oh, sorry, I'm going back to Joe Rodon here. Sergio Reguilon.
Reguilon. Do you know what? I'd probably, rather than have to see Reguilon play again, I'd rather see Skip play there.
I told you. I knew you loved Skip, really.
No,
We're going
Reguilon.
to end with Skip being the prominent right back at the end of this show.
No, with Reguilon, I think he's made his bed as well. I think he's obviously, changed his profile picture as quickly as he could to Old Trafford when he moved there. Yeah, still kind of absolutely seems to love them. So yeah, get rid of him now.
Jed Spence. Selling?
Yeah. I mean, look, obviously, when we signed him, I think a lot of fans were just up in arms as why we weren't so quick about getting him. And look, I think sometimes, you can't. It was just a disastrous signing, that one. And obviously, he's done fairly okay in his loan because it looks like they're trying to sign him. So hopefully we can recoup a bit of money with him. And that's an easy sell. And hopefully we can go and reinvest that money again.
I think I've got a nod of also approval across the boys here. I think there's nods. Are we? Yeah. We've got a nod on Jed Spencer. One we haven't got to be concerned to discuss. Okay, boys. Anyone disagree on the sell? So just in terms of selling, have we all agreeing, Pat?
Sell I agree with Lee. I do think it's a tricky one because with Lo Celso, I think last year, Ange didn't utilise him to the best of his abilities. And there was a lot of games where I was screaming for Lo Celso to come on and he wasn't played. And I'm like, why is he not getting minutes when we could use his impetus in a game and so on? So as much as he frustrates me, as much as he's always been injured, as much as he's been a letdown, I also feel that he's been let down by the managers that have come in. He's played under so many different managers, never really fitted into a system. So it is tricky. Sometimes with these players, it's not just about them. It's about all the circumstances. And sometimes it's unfortunate timing and all of that stuff. But disappointing because when he does play and he's on point, he's on point. But it is frustrating. It is time to sell. He needs to get off our books. And hopefully we can get rid of him this summer and we move on. Rather get a player in that is more reliable and dependable. But I don't think it's all on the sales. So that's all I would say.
Jamie, you're umming there as well to that. Where are you on Basuma? Very quickly.
Exactly the same as Patrick in terms of technical ability is outstanding. I think not only is he good in the defensive side, obviously, is that that number 6, but he can also drive the ball forwards. His passing ability, just technical ability is fantastic. But it was a real issue for us, that number 6 spot. And, you look at that back four and you wonder why we were leaking so many goals. And because you just look at the quality of it. You wouldn't want to replace Porro, any of the, either of those two centre-backs. Udogie, you wouldn't want to replace either. So for me, the issues come from the midfield and kind of a lack of steel in there. And unfortunately, Basuma's played a big part in that. So he was brilliant in those first 10 games and has, and obviously had a couple of other good games throughout the course of the season, but didn't do it enough. So I don't know. I mean, if the right offer was to come in, it would have to be big money. And I think you could potentially upgrade him. You would want someone who's more consistent, but, Basuma at his best, you will struggle to get a better player than that. So it's a really tricky one, but, I think if I was to give a sensible answer, it would be I would keep him. But if the big offer was to come in and maybe the right player was available to replace him, I might look to replace him. So it's just frustrating with Basuma because we know how good he can be. So we'll see. But he's probably one I would keep.